J. John, let's see. I don't see my person in my live room. You may have to unmute yourself.
Not on mute.
Okay, can you hear me? You can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, what is your question?
Um, I am looking for a overview of a day in the life of a Scrum Master. I am in a position where uh, I'm in the PMO office,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a desire to implement more agile into the activity for the team. However, um, trying to implement it based off of I guess, the theory is a bit challenging because management has a different view of what ad methodology entails.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm-hmm.
to kind of perspective from, folks that practice Scrum and practice Agile on
Okay.
a daily, what that really looks like.
Okay.
So that to gradually implement that
Okay.
into our processes. Because I think right now what I'm fighting or what I am running up against is a corporate culture difference, and not everyone is under the same understanding of what agile and what Scrum entails. If
Okay.
that makes
Okay, so let's break that down into pieces because you asked a really big question maybe in a minute, okay? And help me and you help me and let's just have a quick exchange. So, one of the things that you said is the day in the life of a scrum master, okay? The first thing Jay John to really state is that the day in the life of a scrum master is always fairly different. I mean, if things are exciting, then you probably have different issues happening on a daily basis. So, for example, if I was to take my time of being a scrum master, I like to start scrum my meetings on a Wednesday. Does that make sense? So I like to start my meetings or start a brand new sprint Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. And so if you think about my classic Wednesday, I'd be closing a sprint in the morning and opening a sprint in the afternoon. Does that make sense, Jay John? Can hear me?
Yeah,
So
I can.
with that, that would mean that my day would be coming in to close a sprint. So like 9 o'clock, I'm preparing for the stuff that I need to prepare for. Okay, and then at 10 o'clock, I jump into actual the sprint review. Then I would actually jump into the sprint retro at 11, have lunch, sprint planning 1, and that would end around 1:30. And then, okay, I'd close out the day whatever with whatever else other things I needed to close out the day with. Now that would be a day of the typical meetings kind of day. Other than that, on other days, I am taking care of things to make sure I'm positioning the team to be in a better position than they were in yesterday. Period. So that is dealing with issues, trying to prepare for future things, maybe working with the product owner on some product backlog things so then we can make sure we're ready for future sprints, helping the development team out with things that they need to be helped with. So that stuff can always vary, if that makes sense. That can always vary. So that's something to really consider. And that should look probably different from day to day. A scrum master's job that looks the same way every single day, they're probably not running into a whole lot of things and probably need they'll be I would assume asking for more stuff to do. So it is one of those things where it's a little bit different because it's just always changing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But what I was sharing was that this organization in the PMO office, so in the office, they are looking to implement Agile and Scrum.
Okay.
This is a organization that's not familiar with the processes and how to implement them.
Okay.
So I guess the bigger question is how would be an appropriate, I guess, implementation process of introducing agile processes and Scrum into their current culture
Okay.
without being so different from what they currently do,
So
and make it a
here's a question for you. When in your position that you play, and I don't, you're working on a Scrum team as the actual Scrum Master.
no.
Okay. You are on the development team. You're outside. What is your position?
I am a contractor on a PMO team of 3 people.
Okay. And what do you do in reference to the actual Scrum team? You're providing guidance. Are you a member of that team in any kind of way?
No, there is no Scrum team.
Okay. Now my next question for you is, what when management says that they're bringing it in, do you have a champion?
My manager is a champion.
Okay. So the rest of the organization probably doesn't have a lot of belief. So what I would say would be the most comfortable thing to do is to start a pilot. Now, when you start that pilot, I want you to get as close as you can get to actually having a full development team. You may not get that. If you don't, that's okay. But if you can get to the place where you have all the roles on that development team, you had a Scrum Master identified, the product owner identified, you may not get that product owner identified. But the idea is if you run a pilot, what you end up doing is getting some feedback. Jay John, I don't care about you doing perfect Scrum. Let's throw that out the window, okay? Let's throw that out the window. You're not going to be able to do perfect Scrum. You're not even going to get close to it. What I want you to be able to do is get some feedback and have some small wins. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, here's the deal. One of the big things that I could tell you that's going to happen to you is you're going to have a bunch of interruptions because they don't quite get what Scrum is. So you think about this wonderful thing that we have called a protected sprint, right? That protected sprint, we almost treat it like it's sacred, but they won't treat it like it's sacred, okay? So when you do that first pilot, I want you to do like a 60-40 split. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. 60% of their time will be dedicated toward things that they planned out in sprint planning. The other 40% of their time will be dedicated toward interruptions because you're going to get a slew of interruptions. And so there's no point in you trying to stop everybody because you're not going to stop everybody. Okay. Now, with that being said, once you do that, that will be a plus because that's starting the team off on the right foot. When you're in sprint planning, I also want you to come up with a goal. Now, that goal should be an easy goal for people to reach. You know what a sprint goal is, right?
Yes.
For those that don't know what a sprint goal is, it's just an objective that we're trying to meet. Like you might be trying to lose 2 pounds during this week. It's just a goal that we're trying to meet. So with that sprint goal, I want you to create a sprint goal that's easy for them to achieve. It's easy for them to achieve. Okay. So for example, I had a client where I had a sprint goal that was to reduce the number of calls and defects coming into the call center. Okay. We committed to like 21 things and only got like 14, 15 of them done. But we still got the goal done because even if we completed one of those things, the goal was completed. And I mean, the team was celebrating with the CIO and everything else, but we didn't get everything done. But I did that on purpose because it would have been horrible to not get everything done, not meet the goal, and everybody's depressed. That way we had some success and we built on that success. So try to put yourself in a position where you can have some level of success along the way, if that makes sense. Just little bitty pieces of success. That will help you. Now, I wouldn't go anything bigger than I would stick around to like a 2-week sprint. Okay? I wouldn't go anything bigger. They might want to try to go bigger than that, but I think a 2-week sprint would be the sweet spot for you. Now, here's the deal. Normally for me, it takes about 3 sprints to get believers, J. John. 3 sprints. Okay? So you need to get with your champion and let them know that we are going to need to get proof. And that proof is going to be what you all do on the ground, but you need at least 3 sprints. So think to yourself, you need about 8 weeks of running before you're really going to be able to show out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, expect that you have a product owner that's not engaged. Expect you have a scrum master that doesn't really know what they're doing or try to be dogmatic. Whatever you do, the worst thing you could do is be completely dogmatic about Scrum. Like trying to make them do everything by the book does not make any sense. Don't even try to do that. You will run into a bunch of brick walls and get a bunch of people that hate you. This is how you get Scrum kicked out the building really, really quick, and you don't want that to happen. Does that make sense?
That's what I don't want to happen.
Yeah. Just really think to yourself, how can you have small successes on the way? Now, Jay John, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to be running around making sure that you're removing all these little things that you can. So, and then as you have a bit of success, you get a little bit more stuff that you can do. Then a little bit more and a little bit more. And whatever you do, since you're operating in a PMO, do not make PMI the enemy. Don't do it. Are you a PMP?
Yes.
Don't make PMI the enemy. The PMI is your friend, okay? And this is the way you need to think about PMI. In our world, I'm a PMP as well, right? So here's the deal. When you think about Scrum fits nicely into PMI's model, right? Because in PMI, you have initiating, right? Then you jump into planning, you have executing and controlling, monitoring, and then you have closing. Well, if you think about it, sprint planning maps right into planning, executing and controlling. That's when you're doing the work and you're having daily scrums to basically monitor and control along the way. And then you close out with a review and retrospective. So you actually have that cycle right there. So use that to your advantage. Do not let this dogmatic thing that's happened, because there's always this is like I became a CSM and a PMP back in 2005. And ever since then, it's been this battle. I guess it was before I was around. There's been this battle between PMPs and CSMs for no apparent reason. It's absolutely stupid. So, go ahead.
Reason, I don't know why, but yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because they work together and there's no reason why we can't work together. They're amazing project managers that turn into great scrum masters, and then they're amazing scrum masters that can be great project managers. It goes both ways. There's no one perfect right way, period. But the key statement that I want from you, Jay John, is I actually want you to be reasonable. Use that Scrum guide as a guideline, but not as the law. Okay? And so your day is going to be different every day, especially in this beginning, because you know how when you start something and you just don't know what you're going to run into, and you just like, I didn't know I was going to run into that. I didn't know I was going to run into that. I didn't know I was going to run into that. You're going to run into all that kind of stuff. Just be okay with it. Understand it's going to get better. And I would say to you, if there's another big piece of advice that I could give you moving forward, would be make sure that you create a community for you all, kind of agile community inside of the organization, and then start off by meeting every other week, and over lunch, over something else, and just kind of fellowship with each other.
I love that idea, and I was actually kind of jotting that down earlier today.
Yeah.
Some time with my manager coming up this week.
Yeah.
And that I kind of thought through was trying to at camaraderie and building those relationships.
Yeah.
In preparation for later down the road.
Yeah.
So that really helps.
Yeah, I would say to you, I don't know I really don't know how I would have survived in some organizations without having a group. I mean, I don't care if I don't care if it's one other person, Jay John. You need somebody else where y'all can crown each other's shoulders. Because when it gets tough, it gets tough. And trust me, people who you didn't think would be your enemy will be your enemy. Some will be your friends. And you need to just have somebody else who's right there with you that understands. And it's just like, okay, yeah, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. When you by yourself, I mean, I've been inside of some organizations, Jay John, where I have to go upstairs someplace and shed a couple tears, man. Just shed a couple tears, because it's just like this is crazy. It's kind of, I was working with this. It's one of those things where it's just like you know how. Have you ever had this feeling, right, where grown people should do what they're just told to do, and if they just do what they was told to do, we wouldn't have to have all these arguments. Have you ever had that situation?
Yeah, I have. And it's a simple ask that turns into a very lengthy discussion.
It does. It does. And hence the problem. Hence the huge problem, because people just, for some strange reason, don't get it. I mean, they get it, but then they don't get it, and then they don't do what they're supposed to do. And the next thing you know, we just have all these just underlying problems that just doesn't make any sense. When all they have to just do is just do what needs to be done, and then we would all be good to go. So it's just one of those things where you just have to be really careful with this one. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to sacrifice anybody. Okay? Don't sacrifice anybody. There's always these situations where you have these folks in Scrum who think they know all of Scrum, who think they're the super wizards in Scrum. Don't allow those people to poison you, okay? Because you're working in the real world, if that makes sense, right?
Well, the real world is people, and people have feelings, and you have to be mindful and respectful of, what their perspective is, but at the same time, we've got to push forward and get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's another deal, right? I just thought about this, right? What I want you to do is I want you to think about requirements for real, okay? Requirements.
Requirements, yes.
Yeah, requirements, okay? And the reason why I say that is because requirements kind of shape your agility, okay? The way you write requirements will have an impact. So you already know the way they're writing requirements is for a waterfall world. That right there is what exists elsewhere, okay? And those requirements are classically not going to work very well for you being able to deliver something. Does that make sense?
That's part of the problem too.
So what I need you to do is something really, really interesting, right? I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of companies, and a lot of times what they do to me is they put me on the hardest stuff. But them putting me on the hardest stuff means I get to learn the most, okay? And so here's the deal. Here's something that I realized many, many years ago, okay? I realized that when it comes to requirements, I would have to take the classic waterfall requirements, and what I would call it is recast them into something that is more palatable for what my team can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, here's the reason why I say that to you, and I want you to hear me out, so and then you're kind of good. The reason why I say that is because you're going to have a difficult time showing progress in a sprint review. Does that make sense?
It does.
The sprint review is the one place where you get on there and you show out, man. That sprint review, you just show out, right? But if you ain't got nothing to show out with, Jay John, it's over. It's over. Okay? So you want to be in a position where you have something that you can get to the end of the sprint and show out with. And showing out means you can show something. Even if that something is not prod. I don't care if it stops at, before system testing or whatever. It don't have to be prod for you to be able to show people. So I want you to be in a position where you can actually show, if that makes sense. Where you can actually show something. Because that's going to make it so, and then you start building this tribe of believers. Because I'm telling you, J. John, for real. Back in the day, when I had what I don't know, I can't call it. I won't call it my first job, but when I had one of my agile jobs as a Scrum Master, I had 3 teams. It turned into a 200-person portfolio. It's a whole story on how it went from two teams to actually 200. But here's the deal: on that first effort, here's what happened to me. In Sprint 1, when we delivered, they didn't believe us. In Sprint 2, they said, I bet you can't do it again. In Sprint 3, they started believing. That's what happened. Literally, that's what happened. So you're going to have to position yourself to do the same thing. But the only way you can do that, the only way you can really get people like backing you up, ready to go, making it happen, is by having stuff that they can get as close to plan with as possible. Okay? As possible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's a I'm telling you, Jay John, this is what I'm gonna say to you, for real. Enjoy this place. The place where you're at is a beautiful place because you are going to learn so much from where you're at, because you're going to have all these little struggles to deal with and big struggles to deal with as well. And every single one of those things is just a nugget you're adding into the toolkit. And you're going to be able to use that to solve other problems, help other Scrum Masters out along the way. So it is one of those things where you're in a lovely place. And I remember being in your position in 07. It was 07 when I was in that same exact position. I didn't know I was in that position, but I was in the same position that you're in right now. And it was it's that same exact position I was in, right? So I'm telling you, if you do that, people won't believe, and that's okay. I literally had 2 project managers that was trying to get me fired every day. Every day. I kid you not, Jay John. Does that make any sense? Look at me, Jay John. Do I look like somebody should be getting fired? I don't think I should be.
Oh. Absolutely.
I don't think I should be getting fired, but they was trying to get me fired every day. I mean, it was literally every day, Jay John. Every day I had to sit down and have a meeting with management as soon as I walked in the door. Every day, man. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, don't y'all want to, I came all the way here from Richmond to San Antonio. Don't y'all brought me here. Don't y'all want to do this? I was so frustrated. It was crazy.
That's why I started my question off with the corporate culture.
Yeah.
And stepping back and appreciating that first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what I'm running into. I walked in ready and been slowed down and told to be put on hold, and let's re-examine this a little bit further, and I'm kind of confused. So
don't be confused. Don't be confused. That's okay. You have to remember you about to change their lives, man.
Yeah. So I'm ready to jump back in this week, and I was anxious to be a part of this discussion, so I appreciate you providing those insights, and I definitely took some notes. So I've a bit of homework, but at the same time, I'll definitely look forward to giving you an update in the coming weeks.
Jay John, I look forward to your update. I can't wait to have an update from you. Definitely let us know how it's going. We're going to be here every Monday at 8 p.m. So, and just getting this thing started, it's just going to be a good time, good shows along the way. So anytime you want to come back, you are definitely welcome to come back. But especially when you need, make sure you come, when you start feeling depressed and they that much on your back, you make sure you come back. Do not hesitate. Does that make sense? For real. This community is your community. Use this community to help you be the best you that you can be. Okay?
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Jay John. You have a wonderful evening, okay? All right. That was a good call. That was an amazing call, everybody. Some of the things that I want to say to you all about that, so then you understand and you're real clear about what happened. She definitely has some problems that's worth dealing with, worth working through, and that's a bit tough to deal with, especially when you have that corporate culture that has not done Scrum before, and they're trying to jump in and do Scrum. That right there is one of those things where it's a tough ride in the beginning, people. It really is. But I'm telling you, it's an amazing, it's an absolute amazing painting. It's like a nice tapestry, right? Where they can paint whatever they want to within that tapestry and get out of it what they choose to get out of it. So it's one of those things where it's like it's just an amazing, absolutely beautiful thing. So I like the place where she's at. I'm enjoying it. I really do. And I think it's going to be a good thing. So we're going to continue on here and make sure that we're good to go. I appreciate Jay John so much.